My name is Sarah, and I'm 37 years old. That evening, I was sitting by the window of our 2-story house in an upscale part of the city, watching the autumn rain blur the outlines of the trees in the garden. 10 years is enough time to learn all of each other's habits, every little detail of living together. I knew James would return home around 9 p.m., as usual, after his shift at the hospital. I knew his first act would be to remove his expensive Italian shoes in the hallway, hang up his coat, and ask for a cup of hot tea. But that evening, something was different. I sensed it even before I heard the key turn in the lock. Perhaps it was the loud slam of the front door or the decisive sound of his footsteps. "Sarah, we need to talk." Those words sounded like a verdict. I pulled myself away from my favorite chair, where I had been leafing through an interior design magazine, my little hobby, which James always considered a waste of time. At 37, I looked younger, largely because I didn't work and could afford to spend time on myself. James was standing in the doorway to the living room, tall, fit, in an impeccable suit. His dark hair was slightly damp from the rain, and there was a new, cold expression in his brown eyes. "Of course, dear. Maybe some tea first?" I tried to maintain our usual ritual, but he shook his head. "I've met another woman. I want a divorce." Those words hung in the air like a heavy fog. I looked at the man I had spent 10 years with and didn't recognize him. Memories of our first meeting flashed through my mind. It was arranged by our parents at a charity evening. James had just graduated from medical school, and I was the daughter of a medical equipment company owner. The perfect marriage of convenience, as our mothers used to say. "Who is she?" My voice sounded surprisingly calm. "Amy. She works as a nurse in my department. She's 28, and she..." He trailed off, apparently realizing that more details would only make things worse. I remembered seeing her in passing at the hospital when I had brought James a forgotten lunch. Young, energetic, with red hair and a ringing laugh. The complete opposite of me, reserved, always impeccably dressed housewife. "And how long has this been going on?" "About a year. But it's not just about her, Sarah. We both know our marriage was never based on love. It was a deal, an arrangement. And you know what? Even that deal was a sham." There was a strange gleam in his eyes when he spoke the following words. "I never filed our marriage registration documents. Legally, we were never married." The room seemed to spin around me. 10 years of living together. 10 years of introducing myself to everyone as Mrs. Collins, hosting parties for his colleagues, attending hospital charity events. Was it all a lie? "What do you mean you never filed the documents?" My voice trembled, although I tried my best to remain calm. James casually settled into a leather chair, crossing one leg over the other. His posture exuded the superiority of someone holding all the cards. "Remember our rule from the very beginning? I handle all the official matters, and you take care of the home. A very convenient rule, wouldn't you say?" He smirked. "On the day of our wedding, I was supposed to file the papers at the registry office, but I didn't." Memories surged like a wave. The lavish ceremony at an old church, 200 guests, my white dress by a famous designer, the happy faces of our parents. It was all a performance? But how? Why did no one notice? "Oh, it was easy. A wedding ceremony is just a beautiful ritual. The legal part is a separate process. I told everyone the papers were filed. Who would check? Your parents were so thrilled to marry you off to a promising doctor, and mine, to get a daughter-in-law from a good family with useful connections." I remembered how several times I had tried to find our marriage certificate for various documents, but James always said he would handle it. Now everything fell into place. So all these years, I was just your housekeeper? The bitterness in my voice was almost tangible. Well, not exactly. He shrugged carelessly. You got all the benefits of living with a successful doctor. Expensive clothes, a beautiful house, social status. Isn't that a good deal? Suddenly, I felt nauseous. 10 years of my life were built on lies. I stood up and walked to the window, trying to collect my thoughts. Outside, the rain was still falling, but now it seemed menacing rather than melancholic. And now what? I asked without turning around. Now you pack your things and leave. No courts, no division of property, because legally, we're strangers. And yes, I wouldn't try to tell the truth to my parents or at the hospital if I were you. Remember your father's contract with our clinic? It would be a shame if it suddenly terminated. James stood up and headed for the door, but stopped. You have a week to pack. And yes, don't forget to return the credit cards. They're all in my name. When his footsteps faded upstairs, I sank into the chair and closed my eyes. But instead of despair, I felt something else. Cold fury and a desire for justice. Because James didn't know the main thing. For the last 6 months, I hadn't been the naive housewife he took me for. 6 months before this conversation, I began noticing changes in James's behavior. New perfume, late meetings, mysterious calls in the bathroom, classic signs of infidelity that I might not have wanted to notice before. It all started with a jewelry store receipt I accidentally found in his jacket pocket, an elegant sapphire bracelet, but not for me. I had never received such gifts from him. It's for a charity auction, he explained casually then. I pretended to believe him. The next day, I met with Michael Brown, a private investigator, in a small cafe on the outskirts of town. Mrs. Collins, he began, but I interrupted him. Just Sarah. Tell me what you found out. Michael pulled out a folder with photographs. They showed James and the red-haired nurse entering an expensive hotel, dining at restaurants, holding hands in the park. Even that same sapphire bracelet was gleaming on her wrist. But that's not the most interesting part. The detective lowered his voice. I overheard their conversation in the restaurant. Your husband was talking about planning to end your relationship, and he mentioned something strange about the marriage registration. My heart skipped a beat. What exactly? He told his companion that he wasn't worried about divorce because he never officially registered the marriage. I decided to check, and indeed, there's no record of your marriage in the state registry. I felt cold sweat on my back. What do you advise? Don't rush to act. Let's gather more evidence. And most importantly, let's consult with my friend, a family law specialist. He has extensive experience with common law marriages. The following months, I lived a double life. During the day, an exemplary wife; in the evening, a woman preparing a plan for revenge. I documented every joint account, photographed receipts, recorded conversations. Just in case, I made copies of all important documents. Meanwhile, I started quietly transferring money to a separate account, in small amounts to avoid suspicion. James never monitored household expenses, completely trusting me in this matter. What irony. The lawyer, Robert Stevenson, turned out to be a true gem. In your case, there are all the signs of a common law marriage, he explained. Cohabitation, shared household, publicly presenting yourselves as spouses. The fact that he deliberately concealed the lack of official registration only strengthens your position. But his threats about my father's contract, that's blackmail, and we can use it against him. Furthermore, if it comes to light that he had an affair with a subordinate during work hours, it could seriously damage his career. You really thought I didn't know? My question made James freeze halfway to the door. He turned slowly, and I saw the smug smile vanish from his face. What are you talking about? I pulled a folder from the drawer and began laying photographs on the coffee table, one by one. James and Amy entering a hotel, dining in a restaurant, a kiss in the car. His face became increasingly pale. Where did you— Oh, that's not all. I continued calmly, savoring every second. I have recordings of your conversations in the restaurant, where you boast about your brilliant plan of not filing the documents. There are eyewitness testimonies on how we lived as husband and wife for 10 years, statements from all joint accounts, even copies of false tax returns where you listed me as your legal spouse. James sank into the chair, his confidence evaporated. What do you want? Justice. You see, while you were having fun with the nurse, I was consulting with the best lawyers in town. Do you know what a common law marriage is, dear? It's when a couple lives together, runs a shared household, and represents themselves to society as husband and wife. Sound familiar? He grew even paler. You're bluffing. Really? Shall we call your parents? I'm sure they would be interested to hear how their son deceived everyone for 10 years. Or better yet, the hospital administration? I wonder what they'll say about the affair with a subordinate during working hours. You wouldn't dare. And your father's contract. Oh, about that? I smiled. Dad already knows. And you know what? He's found new partners. Turns out, your hospital isn't the only one in town. By the way, he's quite upset and wants to have a chat with you. James jumped up. That's blackmail. No, dear. It's the consequences of your actions. You have a choice. Either we resolve this peacefully, you pay me a settlement and alimony, or I take you to court. And trust me, the scandal will be spectacular. How much do you want? His voice was hoarse. Half of all properties, including the house, plus monthly payments amounting to 30% of your income for 5 years, and full medical insurance. That's robbery! It's less than you'd pay by court order, and much less than what your reputation will cost. A year has passed since that evening. I sit in my new office, a small but stylish interior design studio. That very useless hobby turned into a successful business. Clients value my taste and attention to detail, perhaps because I learned to notice the smallest nuances over the years living with James. I wisely invested the money from our divorce. Part of it went to open the business, part to buy a cozy apartment in the city center. I no longer play the role of the perfect wife of a successful doctor. Now I choose my roles myself. James? The last I heard about him, he was promoted to head of the department. However, Amy didn't stay with him. Rumor has it she found a younger doctor. Ironic, isn't it? My parents were initially shocked, but they came to understand and supported me. Father even helped with the first clients for my studio. You've always been stronger than you seemed, he said recently. This morning I received an invitation to a charity evening, the very one where I once met James. I know he'll be there too, but now everything is different. I'm no longer that naive girl willing to play by someone else's rules. I pull a new black dress from the closet. It fits my figure perfectly, highlighting the confidence I've gained. On my wrist, a thin sapphire bracelet. No, not the one James gave to Amy. This one I bought myself, as a reminder that I'll never let anyone define my worth again. The phone rings. My designer is calling about a new major order. I smile, looking at my reflection in the mirror. Maybe the story with James wasn't a mistake, but a necessary lesson. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. A marriage certificate is just a piece of paper, Robert, my lawyer, once told me. True strength lies in standing up for yourself. I fasten the bracelet and grab my purse. Tonight, I will enter the same hall where my path to unfreedom began 10 years ago, but now I go there a free woman, knowing my worth. And you know what? I'm even grateful to James. He wanted to break me, but instead he made me stronger. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications